everybody. Welcome to the Paranormal Connection. I'm your host, Donna Wilberg. We're really happy to have you here tonight. Now, Chris Frost wrote in The Possibility Place, there are many, many good artists in the world. They will argue with me that the truly great are few and far between, but the truth is the new era of creative consciousness is truly cultivating some genius in this realm. Hiding in Sacramento is one who joins the ranks of those not of an ordinary good, but of an extraordinary, iconic greatness. And guess what? He's here with us tonight. His name is Ron Kendall. Welcome, Ron.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You are extraordinary.
Just
a phenomenal artist. I first saw your work on Facebook, and I was immediately drawn to it. I have to know this person. I have to see more of his work.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it's really nice to be here, and it's really unusual for me to be talking about this, but I'm happy to do it.
Good. Well, let's go back into a little of your background. What do you do? When did you start painting?
Well, I started painting from the earliest recollection of my being. It's something I've always considered myself as an artist from the youngest years, and I really started approaching it seriously when I went to UC Davis back in 1975, and I worked under artists like Wayne Thiebaud and Bill Wiley and Roy DeForest, some pretty prominent artists right now. And I was very much into exploring all those areas. It was a big exploration time for me. Then when I graduated, I kind of looked around and said there's not much employment for an artist, and I ended up, strangely enough, getting into advertising in that type of arena, and sort of stayed in that arena for my whole career. So I basically painted as something that I did very privately, and never really did pursue that part of my life, and really used all my energy to pursue my career.
Which is?
Oh, I work as a director-producer in Sacramento, and I have my own film and video production company.
Well, give a plug.
Mindstorm Creative, and I've been doing that in that business in Midtown for about 13 years, but I've been working as creative directors for advertising agencies and art directors probably for about 30 years.
Well, I imagine that's part of your creativity, because to me, to be able to imagine something like the creations that you brought for us today is just phenomenal.
Oh, thank you.
And I imagine that kind of carries over into what you do every day, and vice versa.
Yeah, it's actually part of the struggle, because you use the same, or at least I use the same part of my brain for my work, and by the time you get home, you're pretty used up. So it's always been a struggle to sort of balance painting with my career, and I tend to go into these 10-year cycles of there have been times when I've gone 10 years where I haven't painted at all, and then I'll go back into it again and try to explore it and try to figure it out again, and then I'll go back, sort of disappear along those lines.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your paintings, because they're absolutely gorgeous. Do you want to start with the one beside you?
Well, most of the paintings that I work on, I really don't know where they're going to go. I start with a canvas. In this particular case, I probably started with a black canvas, and I just start painting. I usually have an idea about something that I want to explore, and in this particular painting, I was just having a personal struggle with my children and my grandson. My daughter and my grandson are having a difficult custody type of situation. So I was really stressing about that, and I just wanted to paint myself free. I wanted to paint an environment where you're sort of lifting up above sort of the chaos that's going on down here. And it just sort of evolved to that. I didn't know exactly that's where I was going, but once I got done, I look back and I take a look at it and go, oh, well, that's kind of interesting. So
well, the symbolism is interesting too.
Yeah.
You know, of that struggle.
Right.
It's gorgeous.
So that's kind of that.
And what about this painting?
This one was just an impression. This was actually a moment I saw my wife getting ready for, we were going out for some sort of an event, and I just was really intrigued by the process of a woman putting on her makeup and how they look at themselves in the mirror and how they think of themselves. That was kind of the thought process that I had. So I started painting that as a feeling, and then it just started evolving into this sort of yin and yang type of picture. And then these creatures, when I'm painting, these creatures just sort of appear out of nowhere. This crow theme is something that's sort of amongst a lot of the paintings that I started doing recently, and this frog-like creature sort of comes in too. So I was kind of showing someone getting ready and seeing themselves in the mirror, what they see and what we see in a kind of a reality. So it was just kind of more of a feeling thing, and it was just turned out that way.
It'd be interesting to see whether or not those are your animal totems.
Well, that was brought up to me actually by a couple people that have interviewed me, because the last show that I had a show in November, and it was called the Wounded Bird Show. And this theme has been throughout probably the last 10 years or so, and it was sort of brought up that maybe that's where that was going.
Interesting. Well, as we're showing some of your artwork, I'd like you to kind of go into the story of something that occurred in your past. Someone had gotten a reading for you.
Yeah,
Let's see if we can pull up some of the work as you're talking about telling this story.
Well, it's just kind of interesting that about 13 years ago, a friend of mine had a reading done for me, and I didn't really hold too much to it. She went to Mexico and actually had a person do this reading and do my charts, and then she recorded the lady at a restaurant talking about the chart. And it was, at the time, again, I just thought it was interesting because she sort of hit points in my life that were fairly accurate. It wasn't kind of the normal Western reading. It was more of a Tibetan type of reading, which I'm not familiar with, but that's what she told me it was. And I just came across the tape about a month and a half ago. We were getting ready for a garage sale, and I saw the tape in there. It was called Timeline. And I put the tape on in my car, and I was listening to it. And this was 13 years later, and part of the reading was not only the past, but the future that was going on. And it was so strange because everything that she talked about, the dates that she talked about, were all right on events for my life as I went through. And one of the things that she talked about, which was kind of eye-opening for me, was that she said that the thing that I was put on the earth to really sort out was this question of pursuing my artistic interests, and the conflict that I have by just what I was talking about, having a sort of commercial world sort of conflicting with the art world. And it was just really interesting how she really pinpointed that I'm going through a place where I have a choice, and the struggle with that choice has always been pretty traumatic for me. And the thing that sort of caught my mind was she said if I didn't figure it out this time, I was going to come back again, and I was going to have to probably have a little bit more of a struggle trying to figure it out. And it just really pinpointed how my life has been for this 60 years. And it's just sort of that balance of trying to be thinking of this as my passion, but still sort of, being a father and being a husband and being a boss of a lot of people, and those things and those struggles, and trying to work that relationship out. And so it was an eye-opening experience.
I think that's fascinating, for all the right reasons. We're doing the paranormal connection right here.
Right.
And connecting how your path is going is so imperative right now. People are starting to discover that, yeah, I am doing the things that I'm supposed to be doing, and from that, it's having a ripple effect on other people. The more people that see your work, you're going to inspire. You're going to be teaching. The possibilities are endless.
Oh, that'd be great. Actually.
Yeah, absolutely love your work.
Thank you.
And the subject matters, So tell us how some of these things come to you.
Well, it's kind of like a therapy, is the best way I can explain it. I've never sold a painting. It's one of the reasons, is a decision I made once I started getting into the commercial world is, since we work in a media that the palette is really dictated by a client, and you sort of work within that palette, and that's pretty much what my day is like. I really contrasted it with the painting of the art world, where I could just sort of go in my own space and just do exactly what I want to do, and paint what I want to paint. So it was kind of a contrast between that. So when I'm painting, I don't really think about whether people are going to like it or not going to like it, or I don't ever talk about it, which makes this really difficult to do. But I found that I've come to a place where, for me to make that next step, it's something that I really have to do. I don't think I do a really good job. I've had, Christopher and some other people come and interview me about the paintings themselves, and then they kind of express it in something that's a little bit more interesting. But everything I paint is based on personal feelings that I have in a journal of the adventure that I have. That's my life so far.
Now, do you ever go back to a painting and go, oh my gosh, I see something there that, whether it be an answer to a question or kind of a piece of a puzzle?
I don't think I do that, but I definitely remember the emotion of the time. It takes me to that time, and the only way I can really compare it to is a journal. If you go back to a journal, you can kind of see, what you were experiencing at that time. So it's been interesting to me. I've kept everything I've done. I probably have 100 paintings at home, maybe more, and countless sketches and things along those lines. And I can always go back to them. My youngest daughter really collects all the stuff I did in the 70s. She's pretty excited about that, and I thought it was pretty funny that she was hanging it all over her house, and she really liked that period of my life. Don't know why.
So what was that period like?
It was pretty free. I mean, the 70s were the 70s, and it was a time when I was really exploring things, and the paintings were pretty strange, and it was really a fun time. But she kind of relates to that part. But technique-wise, I wasn't very good. So it was just interesting seeing how I was progressing. As I was explaining before, when I painted back then, I was very I really used painting to, for lack of a better word, show off. It was something that I did really well technique-wise, so I was always really into paintings, almost photorealistic, and doing a lot of surrealistic work. But it was just, I didn't really like painting all that much because I was trying so hard, whereas now I don't think about it at all. There's no process of, that type of competition and that type of, again, so I just paint for myself, and it feels a lot better than it did.
Well, they're beautiful.
Thank you.
For lack of another word, they're so they're intriguing.
Thank you.
The subject matters, everything. Now, do you always work with oils? Do you have other mediums?
When I first started painting, I painted only in acrylic. I don't know why I never graduated to oil, but that seemed to be the medium that I painted in, and
probably a lot cheaper back then too, wasn't it?
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't that well off, so that probably makes sense. And the other thing is too is that it was just really quick. I could really paint things quick, and oil is. And I think honestly, because I was trying so hard, that oil is for me is a very freeing thing. You don't really fight it. It just sort of goes where it wants to go. So I probably didn't like that lack of control that I had with it that I really enjoy right now.
Now, is there anything that really inspires you? I know that you use it for therapy, but is there something that inspires you? I have to go paint this? Or
yeah, it's some kind of emotion that I'm trying to work out. Almost everything that I do has to do with something something that I want to express or say. So I get that kind of surge. I know my wife can really see it sort of coming on, but I'll start singing around the house. I'll start getting energy, and I'll start cooking. I'll start doing all these things, and then I'll kind of go into a cycle of trying to paint something. And lately, it's just a way of sort of releasing that kind of energy.
That's fascinating, Ron.
Oh, thank you.
That's really fascinating.
Yeah, it's pretty helpful too, probably for a lot of people.
So some of your paintings are pretty large too. I know we didn't really talk about the ones that were shown.
Yeah. I like to paint about 4x4, 4x5. I have some that are 4x8, 8 foot along those lines. For some reason, it's a comfortable space for me to paint it, but I feel pretty comfortable just almost in any space. I'm not painting too many things that are really small anymore. Only because I'm starting to move pretty quickly, in kind of wide strokes. So
that was my next question. How long do you spend on a painting?
Not very long.
Don't tell me that.
Yeah, I think probably I painted this one. I might have finished that in a night.
No way.
Yeah, it might have been 2 days, but I think it's sometimes I'll paint it all, and then it'll dry, so I can sort of blend it a little bit sometimes. But usually 1 or 2 nights.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
It's a process. It's just it happens pretty quick. I mean, it's not really hard. It's interesting. I can paint anything I can see. So if I can see it, I can paint it. I mean, if I can imagine it, I can paint it. So it happens pretty quick. It's not a long process, and there's no thought process to it. It isn't like I'm working out sketches like I used to, or trying to figure out relationships and size and contrast and all those things. I mean, I just paint. A lot of times I paint, and I just sort of stand back and go, okay, wow, what did I just do? And
what a gift.
yeah, it's pretty helpful for me.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, a musician picking up a guitar and just
exactly.
being able to,
I've always admired that too, and I think it's just that, it's I think you can labor a piece. I haven't really done that in a long time, but occasionally I'll work and it just didn't work out. Sometimes I'll just look at it and go, okay, that really didn't happen, but I usually put it away, and then I'll bring it back in a couple months and look at it, and then I'll usually paint it out. But most paintings, a couple days.
So now you're starting to shift into wanting to come out more, wanting to show your work.
Yeah.
What was that transition like for you?
Really scary. I had the situation. The reason why I'm starting to do this is I've been pretty comfortable doing this process up until the time about 4 or 5 years ago. I had triple bypass. And it was, I've never been sick before, and I sort of went through this experience of, oh crap, I'm better get something figured out because I may not have very much time. And so I just really started saying, this is ridiculous. I really need to do something with this and really concentrate on it. And that's when I went on Facebook and just said, I'm going to have an art show. And then I started putting some pieces up, and then people were responding to it. And then it got into a social media thing where, it just started growing in that little arena. And then people started picking up on it. Christopher, the magazine he works for, saw a lot of these pieces, and people were starting to talk about it a little bit. I was getting a little bit of traction, and I just kind of let it grow along those lines too. So I'm at a point right now, and I posed the question on Facebook, if you've never sold a painting, are you an artist? And because it's something I was really contemplating. If I know I can paint and I know I can do art, but are you really an artist if you've never sold anything? And so that generated a lot of conversation, and it connected one thing to another. So I ended up having the show at my office in November, which was pretty fun. I tend to do that every 10 years and just kind of get people together, take a look at it, and so it's been taking a little momentum. And then of course you saw it on Facebook. And
I know, and I hope you have another one soon, because I'm not going to wait 10 years, Ron.
I don't think I have 10 years, but yeah, I'm hoping to have one in the next couple months. Negotiating with a nonprofit right now to maybe do a show in conjunction with them, and I may be selling some of the pieces during that show to sort of support that. So that's kind of moving together.
Are you inspired by other artists?
I stay completely away from looking at any other art. I did a lot of it when I was in college, but one of the downsides of being able to paint, I sort of consciously try to stay away from things because I'm receptive to it, so I don't want to pick it up.
Okay.
And so I try to consciously, in fact, again, my wife, she'll say, well, let's go look at this gallery or that gallery, and I'll go, I don't think I will, because I'm trying to keep this a little closer to what I do and not try to be influenced so much. So it's probably not the smartest thing to do, but it's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah,
Although
I understand if you're a sponge for things,
Although I have to say, on Facebook, I have now a lot of artist friends all over the world, and I do look at their art, and I'm pretty impressed with everything that's going on out there. It's pretty exciting. So
I'll bet. Well, where do you think things are going to go from here?
Well, I'm just really giving this a lot more attention, and I honestly don't know. I'm pretty comfortable if it really doesn't go anywhere, because I have a good life, and I'm pretty happy with with what I'm doing. But if it does go somewhere, I'm kind of just going to take that journey too. And at some point, I'm going to have to put myself out there and really test to see if people are really interested in this, and if they are interested in it, and there's a possibility of me transitioning to doing this, I think I'd be really happy, because I'm not quite sure if I could really manage it, but it's time to really check that out and see.
I've seen what Wayne Tebow's
paintings go for. Yeah, he was pretty influential to me in the early years when I talked to him about careers, and it's one of the reasons I just keep wondering if I would have stuck with it, whether I would have been in that place now, but didn't. So.
Well, before we let you go, how about giving everybody some information? Where can people look at your artwork? Where can they contact you?
Well, I am on Facebook, or if you go to Ron Kendall, Sacramento, you'll find me on Facebook, and I also have an art page, that Ron Kendall Artist, where a lot of my work is up. And that's probably the best place to see the most current things that are going on. I'm doing this series of 5-minute sketches in the morning, where I'm just sketching any idea that I have and putting it out there, and to keep myself sort of moving in that direction. And that's a great resource if you're interested at all, and it's a place where you get the most information about what I'm doing and how this is progressing.
So the auction that you're talking about, that your artwork's going to be featured in, you'll have that information on Facebook?
Yeah, right.
Okay, super.
Yeah, and anything else that's coming up.
Great. Okay, well, let's give a little bit of information about the Paranormal Connection. The Paranormal Connection airs the first and third Thursdays of the month at 9:30 p.m. following Ancient Wisdom on Comcast, Channel 17 in Sacramento County. Our companion show, Paranormal Insights, airs on the second and fourth Thursday of the month. You can also watch us online. Go to accesssacramento.org and click on Watch 17. Encores of each show air Friday at 1:30 p.m. and Saturday at 5:30 a.m. Contact me at paranormalconnectiontv@gmail.com and check for upcoming information on all of our guests at paranormalconnectiontv.blogspot.com. Join us on Facebook. Just search for Paranormal Connection. Become a friend, become a fan. Well, we've got a couple minutes left. Sure. I do want to ask you, because I see such a gift.
Thank you.
Do you have divine intervention while you're working? Do you feel like you're surrounded by something special?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, it's really hard to explain, but when you're painting, it's not like it's not like a musician where you're with a band or you're with a lot of people or like performing it. You're just really in a private sort of space, and the only thing I can say, it's a really comfortable space for me, and it's a peaceful space, and it's a meditative space for me. So
do you lose track of time?
Definitely.
Okay.
The series that I did, first time I went into this cycle, I have a place up in the Sierra, a house up there, a vacation house, and I was up there and I painted for a week solid. I went up there nonstop. I kept falling asleep on the floor in front of it, and I did these 3 huge paintings. And so when I paint, I really get pretty much into it, and I don't really see much else that's going on. So it's a pretty intensive experience.
I'll bet.
Yeah, it's really fun though.
Wow. Well, I can't wait to see more of your work, and I hope all the viewers out there, you'll stop by Ron's page and take a look at his work as well, because what you've shown here tonight is just the tip of the iceberg. It's phenomenal. Thank you. That article also, that Chris Frost, the Possibility Place. Take a look at that. That's
it's on my website. He did a great job, and he basically goes through all my paintings and writes a little piece on it. So I like it.
All right. Well, keep up the good work, Ron, because I'm looking forward to coming to your show,
Good.
whatever you have. I'm inspired. There's so many things I see in your work, and it's just so beautiful, so ethereal.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity, and the opportunity that everyone has on your show to come out here. It's it's really a great thing.
Well, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, everybody. Well, we're going to wrap up tonight, and I want to thank everybody for joining us, and thank you to my fabulous crew. Everybody volunteers their time to put this show together. There's Greg and Lisa, and we've got Tamara, and I'm going to forget Lorene, and I'm going to forget somebody, I'm sure. But I just want you to know that I love you guys. Ted, Laura, I appreciate you. And thank you so much for coming out tonight and helping us put this together. And Ron, good luck to you.
Thank you.
And I know that you're just going to be a household word one of these days soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it
Yeah.
very much.
All right. Good night, everybody. God bless.